Welcome, everybody, for another episode of the EOSHL podcast. This is EOSHL podcast episode number 10. I'm your host, Justin Allery, and with me today, I've got the brand new coach of the Deseronto Bulldogs, Brandon Tucker. Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. Hey, this is going to be a fun little time here, and we're gonna get into some really good questions here. So first, tell us, who's Brandon Tucker?
Well, I grew up in Napanee, Ontario, which is kind of right in the middle of Kingston and Belleville. Funny enough, I actually did not grow up playing hockey. I've played, I think, 2 games of organized hockey in my life, which I know is a little bit strange, but I grew up playing softball in the summers. So we traveled, my family and I spent most summers of my life traveling around Ontario and Canada for that. So, that kind of took up a lot of the time and just didn't have the time in the winter times to do that. But I mean, I've always loved hockey. It's been a big thing for me my whole life, but I've always kind of been, I was always the kid that liked the business side more than the actual act of playing it. So, there'd be times I'd get NHL video games and I would legitimately go the whole year not playing the game, but just doing franchise mode and that kind of stuff. So I always knew this is kind of, I wanted to be involved in hockey in some sort of way, but it just was not going to be on the playing side. I'm not very good. So, that's those that can't that's the saying. So, I mean, I went to Durham College of Sport Management, worked with a hockey team up in Oshawa in the GMHL for a few seasons in their front office with them, and then moved back home and got started here when the Bulldogs started. So that's kind of
so it's funny because my next question was what position did you play before coaching? So, I mean, what did you play when you played those couple of games?
The pond, and I think I was a defenseman technically in a couple games.
Okay.
But in tournament,
all right.
So less better.
So how did you get involved with the Bulldogs?
So kind of a funny situation, but I mean, I was moving home from Oshawa, and I kind of knew Graham Gunnell a little bit, kind of here and there, and I saw he had posted something about. It looked like it was honestly just the Bulldogs logo on his Instagram page, and I saw that it said senior, and I said, okay, that's interesting. We don't have senior hockey in the area, and I don't know anything about senior hockey other than the Allen Cup League. So I reached out to him. I was moving home, so I wasn't going to be involved with the Oshawa team anymore, and I said, if you guys are looking for someone to come in and evaluate training camp, like I'd come out and watch. I mean, I like watching hockey. It's something I've always loved to do. So I figured I'd reach out. He said yes. So I went to the training camp in September of 2019. Was there. I met Steve Dernan, who was the head coach before for the whole time, and Landon Punchard. So met them, did some evaluating. Didn't really think anything more of it. But then right before I was leaving, Steve, Graham, and Landon pulled me aside and said, we need an assistant coach. Would you want to do that? I had never coached before, so it was kind of like, I mean, we can try it. I'm not going to promise you it'll go well, but it kind of was a bit of a shock. I went to there just thinking I was going to do some scouting, and then came out. I said yes because I didn't want to say no at the time. So I took that position and, learned on the fly, I guess you'd say, kind of how to coach and how to work with players. And I learned a lot from Steve and Landon and Graham. And, I had honestly no experience with the coaching side of things before that. So, I mean, to learn on the fly was a lot, but I mean, they were really good and they really helped me with all that stuff.
Yeah, I would say, in your situation, I can kind of relate a little bit to last season in Frontenac. Anytime Don Thomas, because Don Thomas was kind of like our unofficial, official head coach, but he would play too. So if he was playing, I would just kind of step in the road games. So luckily, I got to do that a couple times against you guys last season. Of course, it was one of those like learning on the fly, and so I could definitely relate to what you're saying there. And I think the best way to learn is to do it, right? So in those kinds of situations. Now, I know, Steve Jernan was the, coach since 2019, and, so, he just retired this past season. So how did the situation, unfold for you, like to become the head coach? Is it like something that you asked for, or was it like something that the team went to you and say, hey, we want you to be our next guy?
So, I've always said all along, I mean, Landon and I are really good friends. So that's always been the case. We actually didn't know each other before this. So it's been a friendship that's grown over that amount of time, became really good friends. I think I always try to differentiate between business and personal. So no matter what, I always wanted to make sure that he knew, like, if Steve's retiring, I don't want to just be given that or anything. Like, it's not what I'm expecting. So, I think it actually took some time. I think Landon, I can't speak for him necessarily, but I mean, he took a couple months to kind of weigh the options and go from there. But he reached out to me in May and offered it to me, and I was extremely happy and honored to have the opportunity. And I just that's kind of how it transpired. I mean, it was pretty professional and just kind of how you would expect it, I guess.
And the thing too is, like, anytime I've got to give you guys some compliment here. So anytime that I've ever been to a Deseronto Bulldogs game, every time I look over at your bench, I'm like, man, they've got the best dressed coaching staff, always in the proper attire. Now, what is something that, like, I'd say, like, because you learn on the fly, you learn from Steve. Like, what is something you've taken away from Steve before he retired? Like, is there any kind of like components to his coaching that you can take away from that and bring it into this new group, or into, like, the group moving forward?
Yeah. You know what? I think the biggest thing for me, and it was such a new experience. I mean, he was with the MSU Jets and Deseronto Storm, so he'd done the junior thing too. So I think it was just honestly how to interact with players. I think interacting with the players and getting the most out of them is important, especially in senior hockey. I mean, I'm not teaching them anything. I'm not teaching them skills or teaching them certain ways of doing things. I mean, it's utilizing each player's skill to the best of their ability and adapting it to a system, but not over coaching it either. Senior hockey is kind of a different animal when you have all these players that have been great players on their teams they play with in junior or minor hockey as well. Like, these guys are used to being the guy, the player, and the go-to one. So I mean, it's interacting and communicating with players and on their roles and kind of what you want to see. I think that's something I really took from him was, you treat the players like people first, and hockey players second. Senior hockey is such like I said, a different animal. Everyone has a job to go to on Monday morning, has families to go home to. It's not the same as junior, where you're kind of living for that at the time and soaking up as much information as possible. So communication for sure, and just kind of how to interact and get the most out of players.
Yeah, it's definitely something I know, like chatting with Gemi earlier on in one of our earlier episodes. He was talking about, like, how Steve was a very, like, personal kind of guy, and and you just basically just summarize that, right? And even myself chatting with Steve, he's a fantastic guy, and I think he definitely got the most out of his players, and you notice that too. Actually, comes to my next thing I'm going to talk about here. Kind of showing about the progression you guys have made since the beginning. And so basically what we've seen here is we've seen a pair of 5-12 seasons, followed by a 10-10 season, and to last season to a 15-5 season. So you guys have seen some relative big steps over those, I guess, officially 4 seasons, right? So it's a great example of like a team growing and having success with improvement year over year. Did you guys change anything, or was it something like, was there a vision in place that you guys, like a goal or a vision that you guys stuck to, or like a game plan?
You know what? It's funny because I mean we always at the same. I mean, it sounds cliche, but the vision is always to win a championship, and I think we're definitely capable of doing that. But the goal has always been to improve year over year. So we're still one of the younger teams in the league, which is kind of what we pride ourselves on, is kind of growing together. I mean, you make key signings in the off season and deals you have to make, but keeping your core group together and your core and building as that, I think is super important, especially in senior hockey. I mean, you have the camaraderie as teammates and staff and stuff. Like it's so important for the greater goal. I've said it, I'll say it again. Senior hockey is so different. I mean, you have 40 players that all have different commitments and different lives. So having 40 players that are willing to buy into different roles has been our biggest thing. And I can't speak highly enough of everybody that's done it. We don't have any issues. I mean, every guy latches onto a role that they see is available and needed, and we just improve as a team. I think we've kind of gained a little bit more structure over the last definitely season. Going to continue with that moving forward, but our goal is to win a championship this year, and to be honest, anything less than that is a disappointment. So.
Yeah, and like when you're mentioning like your core players, like when I think of Deseronto Bulldogs, I think of the Noah Brants, I think of the Chris Rogalski, the Jordan Cannons, like I think of those guys, and Gus, like
Yep.
those are some really good cornerstone players to build a team around. And I know you guys had a really, I say, a good problem to have last year with two very solid goaltenders, in Kuipers and Bailey, and I know we saw Bailey go down with that injury in the playoffs, which I know was very unfortunate. And looking how Kuipers came in and just played phenomenal throughout that series. I was really proud of how he played. But overall, you guys are in a good position. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys can do this year.
Biased, so I can admit that, but I mean, I feel like we have the best goalies in the league just because the best ability is availability, and Bailey and Corey are always available. I mean, unfortunately, Bailey's injured and he's still currently injured, but I mean, you kind of have to deal with that as well. And I mean, when he's back and ready, we're ready to have him back too. But we're very confident in Corey, and signing as well was important for us to fill the hole on the back end. I mean, but I think another big thing for us is we have we have talented players, but they all it's kind of like a group effort. I mean, a lot of teams, and good for them, they have, a star-studded player that has 60, 70 points in a season. We don't necessarily have that. I mean, we pride ourselves in having 4 lines and 3 lines of D that can roll and put up numbers and produce. So that's another kind of thing that I think is a stepping stone for us and continues to be so. It's just the ability that we have in our depth.
I gotta say too, like that Johnny Hill, he is so exciting to watch, and every time I call him Hill the Thrill,
Hey,
Johnny Hill the Thrill.
I could get in trouble for this, but I feel like he was a bit of a snub for Defenseman of the Year. But that's a biased opinion. But,
Hey, everybody's allowed their take, right? I think you cut out there for a second. Do you still hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I hear you. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Next thing here I gotta ask you here is what is something you're most excited for this upcoming season as like your first being the guy behind the bench?
I think I'm always so excited for the home opener. It's just getting back into Deseronto is always such a a big thing. I mean, we have great fans. We get a lot of them, and they're always coming. So getting back to the home opener, I think we started on. I could be wrong, but I think we started on the road last year, and it was just exciting to get back. Yeah, we started in Gananoque, and we were just so excited to get back to Deseronto and to the fans. I mean, the summer, it doesn't honestly feel that long, but because you're kind of always working and doing stuff with the team. But the break between the last game of the playoffs and you beat out, you're begging for a home opener again, because that just kind of gets you off and running and moving forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. Right, it's the moment the season's over, I just want to start up again. It's just I'm having that withdrawal of no hockey right now, so I'm trying to get as much content out as possible to kind of get that EOSHL feeling. Are you going to be going with a different structure than what Steve brought, or are we going to see a very similar system in place to what you had last year?
No, you know what? I think it's hard to say. I mean, everything will be based off of kind of what Steve and we as a staff put in place. But I mean, I think I'd be lying if I said we weren't super disappointed with how the playoffs went last year. I mean, it's not. I mean, Smith Falls is a great hockey team. It was a great series, and they were the better team in the end. So it's nothing towards that. But I don't know if we necessarily played the brand of hockey that we needed to move forward. So we want to be a little bit more defensively structured this year, kind of putting together some things in place. But the other thing is we want to be more physical. I'm not talking about fighting and that kind of stuff, but just no one's going to make space for you. You got to make space for yourself. So being physical to open up space for our the skill that we have as a team is important. I would say we're probably one of the faster teams in the league. I could be biased again, I don't know, but that's kind of where I think it is. So to be able to use our speed, especially in a small rink like where we are in Deseronto, you have to be physical to make the space for that, to give yourself an opportunity with the puck. So definitely want to be more physical to be able to open up the spots for us, but being more defensively responsible as well is kind of the game plan for the year.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing I've always felt about the Bulldogs is you guys are really good at knocking the puck off players' sticks. Like it's knocking the guy off the puck, and it's definitely a nightmare for opposing teams. That's for sure. I can definitely tell you that. What are some new signings? I know you guys have had some really some signings that have come up recently.
Yeah.
Who are you most excited to see that you've out of the players you've signed so far this year?
It's a tough one. I mean,
this off season.
I mean, it's. I'm excited to see Ethan Frazier. An OHL goalie is always good to see. But you know what? I don't really want to say one or another because there's guys I haven't seen in person. There's some guys I've seen in person, so I know kind of at least what they can bring to the table. You get the local guy like Ian Harrison, was from Picton. Seen him play a little bit. Seen Krupa from Napanee. But anytime you get some professional caliber players, like you have Kyle Jenkins coming. He was a Carolina draft pick, so there's definitely skill there. But I think I'm excited to kind of see what we have in front of us in training camp. I mean, each guy will have their own role and kind of what they need to do to bring to the team, and I'm just excited for all of it, to be honest.
And do you foresee yourself having any kind of like obstacles this upcoming season? Like, do you see any? Do you have any challenges you can foresee yourself having with being the guy in charge?
You know what? I think as long as there's an open communication, I kind of pride myself on being a communicative person. So then that goes for off the ice too. If there's things going on in players' lives, I want to know about it too if they need to talk. But I think it's important to senior hockey can be frustrating. I mean, one game you may have 40 guys available, and the next game you may have 20. And it's finding the ebbs and flows and of just staying even keeled. I mean, you can't be too high and too low. I'm not going to say I'm a super emotional guy. I mean, I definitely wear losses pretty hard for a couple days, but I think it's just being the head coach now, I kind of have to be a little more even keeled with that stuff. It's not like the NHL where if you lose a game, you can go out the next night and you're right back at it. I mean, you've got a week to process and move forward. So I really think that's kind of going to be an obstacle is just making sure we keep all the players as well. We're not going to go 20-0. If we do, that's great. I'm not saying we can't, but that's a tall task and a really good hockey. So being able to go with the ebbs and flows of the league and keeping a good head.
So I know you guys, like I was mentioning before, you guys have a really good problem with having good goaltenders. Now you have three goaltenders. Depending on, like, I guess, with the situation with Bailey rolling. So what's your game plan with rolling with your three guys? Is there going to be like a set schedule at starts, or is it just going to go with the hot hand?
You know what? That's a tough one, because I mean it kind of depends on where we're at. I think I have full confidence in Corey and Bailey. I haven't seen Ethan yet, but you know what? With his resume, I'm not concerned. But with Bailey being injured, that's it puts the onus on the two of Ethan and Corey to carry the load, which I have full confidence in. I don't know where we're fully going to go in terms of starts and stuff. It'll be. I mean, you know what, we do that on a week-to-week basis. If both goalies are playing well, then they're both going to start. They're both going to start games. So hot hand, I guess, is somewhere we'll go with. But I mean, to start, you want to get your goalies getting shots and getting into games and getting a feel for it again. And I think another important thing is getting your players to have the confidence in your goalies as well. So if you have a goalie that hasn't played in a month or 2 months, the team have the full confidence in them just because they haven't seen them in a while. So I do think it's important moving into this year that we utilize everything we have.
So I have some questions here from somebody on social media here, from EOSHL co-president John Zink here. He wants to know, maybe Landon's the person to ask this, but he's like, how did Deseronto attract like how are they able to sign an NHLer? I guess they might be referring to Newbury, maybe, or maybe like players with NHL type caliber resumes.
Right. What I will say, Landon kills it with the recruiting. He's all over. We have pictures of players we send out. We pride ourselves on being. I mean, it's not a professional organization in senior hockey, but as professional as we can be. So, we actually spoke to Newbury earlier. I mean, he's in Windsor now coaching. So, that's a different thing, but it's just promoting what we have available. I mean, to be able to still play competitive hockey in your 30s and mid 20s is a big thing. I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, it's a constant, like, we as a staff, like, we talk every day all year round. So it's a constant just trying to get players to buy in, keeping the guys you have currently happy, but also selling it to good hockey players. I mean, we don't do anything different with NHL caliber players or players that haven't played hockey before. I'm just saying that, but like, it's all the same. You tell them what we have to offer in terms of a professional environment and the ability to keep playing competitive hockey, and it kind of sells itself. And if you're not interested, then that's fine. Then you don't. We want players that want to be Bulldogs.
Exactly right. He was just asking me also. Ask them if him and Josh go over to a game, do they get free beer?
We don't have that in Deseronto currently, so no.
And
canteen's great.
So this is kind of, actually, he asked this question, but this is actually a question that I have as well. Is who do you consider Deseronto's biggest rival, or like team that you're most like I don't say concerned about, but like always on your radar kind of thing?
It's tough because we've been around for a while. I want to say, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I would say Tweed in terms of geography, but I think there always seems to be a little bit extra when we're playing Gananoque. It always kind of seems like there's always something on the line. It's just kind of a little bit more high intensity, which we love that, and so do they. So those games seem more high intensity. And I mean, going to Game 5 in the playoffs is will start a rivalry with anybody. So I could see Smith Falls and us kind of going high intensity. We have something to prove to them, and they want to keep proving it to us too. So it's hard to say with rivalries.
And John says here, are you worried about Lindsay? They're looking good so far as skill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't take any team lightly. There's no team in the league that I take lightly, or any of our players do. You go in, you do a job, and then you get out, regardless of what team it is. Lindsay looks like the roster's building. I think Frontenac's going to take a good step this year as well. I mean, they keep the same thing. You know, you build as a team and you keep improving. You're going to make steps. So I don't take any team lightly. I have the same level of nerves before each game, whether it's North Dundas, Scan, Tweed. It doesn't make a difference to me. It's all the same. So.
Yeah, I will say, like, anytime that, like, I've covered Frontenac in against Deseronto, it's always, most of the time it's been a fun, tighter game than sometimes what the score reflects. But we had that one game that went to overtime that was just like a nail biter, and I was like, man, it was just a fun atmosphere to be part of.
Funny, I had a feeling that it was going to be a tight one because Frontenac always seems to step up and play us really hard too. So I mean, that's another rivalry. I mean, I can't say every team, I guess, but it kind of feels that way.
Yeah, we actually have our Labor Day Classic coming up. Actually, I'm really excited for. I've actually been working on some soundtracks, some sound bites, some goal horns. Actually, a goal horn for you guys. I hope you guys like it. I'll send it your way later on. Now, my next question here is: what's your favorite away team's barn that you like? You say, like, they have a great atmosphere, great everything, fan base. Like, what would you say, like, you enjoy going to coach?
To coach, I'm going to say Smith Falls.
Or coach against, I should say. Sorry, yeah.
To coach against, I'm going to say Smith Falls because their benches are big and it's more room to stand. So
yes.
that's where I'm going to go with that. But I think every atmosphere is different in the league. I mean, Barry's Bay, we went up there twice. They put on a pretty good show. That seems to be the spot to be up there. So that was a pretty cool atmosphere. Probably them or Smith Falls because their benches are great.
Oh, they really are. Like, there's so much room back there. You can fit up like a whole second lineup if you wanted to back there. Now, who would you say would be the toughest? So, like, when you're looking at your schedule and you're looking like, okay, we're going to play, I don't know, let's say as an example, let's say we're playing Gan or whoever. What player is the toughest player that you got to prepare to coach against?
Toughest player. Rhino has always had our number. It's felt like he seems to put up points every time we play him. On Tweed, I mean, I've coached in the league long enough where Brett Gustafson we've played quite a few times, and he's a tough nut to crack too. But I mean that goes without saying. But I think with who we play most often, I would say Andrew Reinhold. He seems to always step up against us, so he's the guy for me.
Yeah, he's got 50 goals in 50 career games, so he knows how to pot them. Now, this is actually my final question here, unless we get any more from Mr. President there. But what can we expect from the Deseronto Bulldogs in 2025?
I'm never going to guarantee anything, but I would expect us to make a step forward. So like I said before, a championship or a disappointment this year. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that. There's a lot of good teams, and it's a long road ahead. But you can expect us to be intense and competitive, and we'll put on a show for the fans, home or away, and that's the goal for every organization. But I'd like to improve on 15 wins. I mean, that's a tough one too, but that's the goal for sure. Always improving.
Oh, exactly. You look at your 10-10 season and you jump up by 5 games. That's a huge jump, right? So, like, you may be looking to 16, 17 wins. Maybe I mean, you looked at some of the Rocket records in the past, right? They've gone 19-1, 18-2. It's possible, right? So. Oh, Did I lose you? Oh, there we go. I got you back. So sorry, it looked like I lost you there for a second. But yeah, overall, I'd say like the caliber of the league is getting better. I would say the Western Conference is an interesting beast because like you got you guys in there, you got Gananoque in there, Smith Falls. You know, we got the new West team in Westport. We got Lindsay. You know, of course, Frontenac. Overall, like Tweed. Like overall, that division, anybody could take that division. I feel. I know you guys had that division lead last season up until I believe the final game of the season, and then you know you guys dropped to second. But overall, like when you look at the progress you guys have made year over year, it's very impressive, and that's pretty much the best way to summarize how to build a hockey team, right? And you know, I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to bring this upcoming year.
Thanks, Justin.
Oh, looks like I have another. Looks like here we go. I got a question here from the myth, the man, the legend, Billy Super Bowl. I've got so how impressed were you with Corey Kuiper's performance stepping in for Bailey Miracle in the playoffs?
I honestly, I couldn't be more impressed. I think what he stepped into and is right into the fire, and I mean, came in with full confidence, and we had full confidence in him, and he put on a show. I mean, we have the you know, the luxury of having good goalies. And I mean, Corey stood on his head a couple of times and made saves that there was no reason he should have saved them. So, you know, he definitely, he did his part. And, you know, it was a great thing to have because without him, it could have been a disaster.
Yeah, you know, actually, I want to point out something that Kipes did. I think it was Game 4 against Smith Falls. In Smith Falls, they had their net pulled, and I remember seeing him going for the empty net. And just missed the open cage. That would have been. I would have been excited to see that.
Crazy, but maybe I think you got a nice. So maybe we have to talk about that one.
He's a great puck handler. I've got to say, like he's definitely one of the best. You know, there's some really good puck handling goalies himself. You know, Dallas Slack. I love watching these guys play the puck because it's
you have to plan.
It just adds that extra element, right?
If you have a goalie that plays the puck, you have to plan way differently than you would with a goalie who stays in his net. If you have a goalie that can play the puck, it changes everything on your defensive responsibilities. So,
oh, absolutely. Well. Give me one sec here. Just making sure I don't have any more in the queue here that are like asking me away here. Oh, I got one here from the Mr. President here.
Okay.
So, oh yeah, okay, here we go. So, John says here, who are you expecting to see at the All-Star game from Deseronto?
That's I can get myself in trouble here. I might have guys texting me, but I think I mean, I'd be crazy not to say Johnny Hill. I mean, I think I don't expect him to take a step backwards this year. So I would have said he would have been at least an all-star this year. So I would say Johnny. I don't know how many we have as available, but it could be anybody. I mean, everyone's going to have an opportunity to produce. So could very well be Corey or Bailey too. If Bailey comes up.
So John also says here, congratulations on behalf of the league of becoming the head coach of Deseronto Bulldogs and looking forward to seeing what you do for Deseronto in the league.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that one.
Also, he was also saying here, he also said here that a little birdie said you're a part of the Western All-Star team coaching.
Oh. I wouldn't know that part, but I mean, hey.
So yeah, so we're gonna have also another thing too is there's going to be 2 players from each team going to be going to the All-Star game, and there's going to be 1 voted player in each division, like a fan vote. So cool. It's going to be exciting. I'm actually really stoked for that All-Star game because you're going to get to see, you know, like the cream of the crop of the league all in one ice pad. I think it's going to be fun. I don't know like what all the details are going to be about that, but I'm kind of hoping that there's a skills competition, you know, maybe maybe a breakaway relay or something like that, where, you know, you have an emergency backup goalie on the ice. Who knows, with a GoPro, who knows?
I like the idea. Hey, that's my vote. I'm down for it. Maybe you can.
Now we got
played hockey. shoot on you.
Yeah. So Billy's got another question here. He's got, losing Gustafson must have been a massive loss. It was amazing how you all stepped up and stayed in lock, or hold on, step with each other. We wish all the best, Mitch. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was that was a tough scene, but Mitch is doing well now. He's actually playing senior lacrosse in Owen Sound right now, so he's back and healthy, and we're looking forward to having him back in full force doing his thing.
I'm just checking to see. Oh, yep. So John confirms there is going to be a skills competition.
Very good.
So that's going to be exciting. So I'm going to wrap up here. Again, Brendan, thank you again for coming in today and doing this with me. I know we've been talking about doing this for a little bit now. And I'm really, very much looking forward to seeing the Bulldogs this season. We're going to try and come in, as much as we possibly can. I know we're going to be very busy, Billy and me, with covering everything. So, but we love coming to Deseronto and seeing what you guys bring. I know being part of those pregame ceremonies, it's always special, and we really hope to be a big part of your season this coming up. So, again, thank you for coming in, and thanks for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I mean, love what the league's doing and where we're headed. So, lots of big things ahead, and really looking forward to the season.
Perfect. And fans, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We love your support. Our march to 1,000 subscribers is on. All right. Thanks again.